Ah yes, the economy. One of the core pillars that make up your country in Rise of Nations. What I just showed you a few seconds ago was an exaggerated showcase of the extra cost you have to pay when you let your troops depart into open waters. Is it really worth it to search for the One Piece when the costs are this extensive? Well, it depends. But more on that later, because right now we gotta understand the base of your nation's economy and how we even got to this point. The economy consists of 3 different sections: your incomes, expenses, and the balance, which is what you earn every 5 days after calculating the income minus the expenses. And can I just say, numbers are just so sexy. As you can see on the screen, there are a lot of things that can affect how much your income will be or how much your expenses will be. Not all of the things are equally important. Tax income is arguably the most important out of all of your sources of income, since it's how much your nation makes alone, and it's the largest at the start compared to the other ones. Having no dependence on other countries while also being able to afford max research spending and max government spending is something you should strive after, since then the UK can actually justify that going Brexit in the game is at least good. Can't say the same thing for their real life counterparts, but since I don't want to get mobbed, let's move on. Tax income is generated by your cities, and there are a few ways to affect your tax income. You can choose to develop cities, which scales the cost according to the population count and tier. The higher the number, the bigger the cost. Every time you develop the tier, it increases by 1. Each tier gives a different amount of extra tax income to that specific city. You can see the list on the screen, and your total tax income from that city can be found by just simply clicking the city and checking the left corner. One more thing that can affect tax income are policies that either decrease or increase tax income, and same goes with ideologies. If you're only going to focus on your tax income, then going democracy is recommended, since the other ideologies doesn't really affect tax income in a positive way. And then finally, there's the research tab. Here you can choose the route tax income, and your tax income will increase by the stated amount in percentage. Your tax income is very important, but the resource income should not be glossed over, since it can give a nice boost to your total income. Resources is generated by natural resources and factories that produce resources. When building a factory, you get a certain amount of resource income depending on the population size. The bigger the population, the bigger the income, but the maximum is 250,000. So when you build a factory, prioritize building it on square cities, so you can get the maximum bonus. And the buffs for the resource income works the same way as tax income, other than that you build factories that produces resources, which I will talk more on in the trade income, and mines to increase the total output of the natural resource instead of developing a city like you do to increase tax income. The best ideology for increasing resource income is communism, of course, since again it's really the only one that actually increases its outputs, not accounting for socialism. But resources have a different value since they also contribute to your trade income, and oh god, trade income is important. Trade income is gonna be your main source of income until at least 2023, or even longer depending on how many players are actually conquering AI nations. Getting a strong trade income in the first half year will mean a huge advantage over your adversaries, since your balance can reach 8 digits, which is just gorgeous. You can sell both natural and produced resources in the resources/trade tab. Blah, that's a mouthful, but I would advise against selling natural ones, since then you miss out on the extra 250,000 bonus for having a factory, and not to mention that produced resources are worth more. Your trade income cannot be simply buffed, but it can be increased by selling more and more stuff. When selling, it's important to check if the country you're gonna sell to has either a white or yellow name. The one that has a white name is an AI nation, and the one with a yellow name is a player control nation. I would recommend selling to AI nations since they will automatically accept trades they can afford, and I have a list in the description if you are interested in how many consumer goods they will each accept for each nation. And selling consumer goods is one of the things that I recommend because it's very large in quantity. Electronics are the most profitable, but AI nations will only accept 5 electronics each if they can even afford it. So that's why I suggest selling consumer goods, since they can be sold in any amount, as long as the nation you're planning to sell to has a deficit of consumer goods. They will accept as many as they can afford. And that's about it for the income section. War reparations and puppets aren't really important since they are kinda useless. Nobody uses them. You only get war reps if you've defeated a country and didn't fully annex them, and puppets is just better off being a part of your country, since then you also gain access to that sweet pool of manpower. But watch out so you don't use too much manpower, because if you build too many tanks, then the expenses might start piling on. And expenses pile on like a pack of high altitude ocelots. When the fuck did I write this script? Trade expenses works the same way as the income, but it's the cost for when you are buying resources from other countries. You shouldn't really have to worry about this one if you use all the resources you are buying on a factory, since then you make a profit. But you should really keep a check on military upkeep, since this is where your main expenses are gonna come from. All units in the game require an upkeep cost. Simply read the unit description for the cost. Luckily, this expense can be affected by either choosing nationalism or fascism as an ideology, or the military service act policy, or researching it, or just do everything. You can reach all the way to 36% of the original cost, which is very OP, maybe even more now considering they have added formables that have unique modifiers that also decreases military upkeep. So that's nice. You can stand toe to toe with countries 3 times your economy, which is very good. Reinforcements are basically replenishment costs for damaged units in both money and manpower. You can choose to either turn it off or turn it on, and the communist path in the ideologies reduces this cost. Government spending and research spending is something I'm gonna go over in like 1 minute, but the gist of it is that you can choose an amount to pay every 5 days in exchange for other bonuses like the political power. Forts are not really important since they are just the upkeep cost for having built a fort. That's it. That's the 3 sections of economy you need to know, but as you can see on the screen, there are more interesting buttons we can click on. City overview is basically just a ledger of everything, not important. Resources and trade is where you buy and sell stuff, we just went over it, not important right now. But there's the economic laws, and this is where you can gain a huge advantage if you use it correctly. It can also fuck you over if used incorrectly. Let's go over them. There is taxation laws, government spending, and research spending, all super important. As a baseline, you usually want to keep taxation at normal if it is under 20% of your total income. Increasing it decreases your stability in exchange for more tax, so it's usually a good idea to have consumer goods because they increase your base stability by 25%, which cancels the maximum out. If you have like only around $1 million balance, and over 20% of your total income is from taxation, then you want to go maximum taxation since that is better than waiting years for your stability to rise up to increase it by just the same amount. Government spending and research spending is also really important since they speed up the process of getting super important things that can increase your tax income as an example. They scale to the size of your population, and if you can afford max on both, then you know you have a good economy, my friend. If it's slower, then we gotta use strategies, and there are many of them. Let's go over each economic way of supporting your nation one by one. Starting with Blitzkrieg economy. The ideology you usually want to pair with this one is either nationalism or fascism, because of the decreases in military upkeep. Socialism and communism also works, but it's gonna be very expensive. The way this works is that you rely on other people's treasuries to build up your army and keep repeating that. You invade a small neighbor, steal their treasury, use that treasury to build tanks, and invade even more neighbors. You're basically not relying on your balance income but on your stored treasury, but make sure the balance doesn't reach minus 5 million or even less, because that will just decimate your economy. Killing 2 countries every 75 days is the equivalent to 2 million income in the balance, and that's why you want fascism, since it justifies even faster, and then you can get even more money. The next economic strategy is a trade economy. Every single nation wants to aim for this one and use it in combination with other ones, but if you aren't fast enough, you might miss out because this one requires speed, aka fast internet connection. Get factory output 2 in the technology tab. Be fast at building either 4 electronic factories and then selling 5 electronics to each nation you are able to afford, or you can choose to build the 3 factories required for a civilian factory and a steel factory, then invade one small AI nation, preferably a closed micronation since they only take 25 days to justify on, take their treasury and build 3 civilian factories. Then, when you've got some more money, build 1 more motor factory and 3 more civilian factories. The difference between selling consumer goods and electronics is that you can sell any amount of consumer goods you want to AI nations, as long as the AI nations is in a deficit of consumer goods and has an economy to afford it. Consumer goods list is in the description. You can also combine this one with the Public Service Act if you want to, but I prefer to combine this strategy with the Blitzkrieg one so I can get nationalism fast. And the final economic strategy is playing tall or utilizing your land to the fullest. You'll want communism or democracy, either one works. If you are a democracy, you'll basically want to focus on your development, developing, getting all tax modifiers, etc. If you're going communism, you'll want to build as many fucking factories as possible. Go full wacko mode. You get 250,000 for each factory on a square city or big city, so just keep on spamming civilian factories because you can just build a butt ton of stuff, and this is coming from someone that dislikes playing as communism. It can be pretty equal to democracy and is better in combat, but it's kinda a pain to build so many factories. But if you like that, go ahead, no one's gonna stop you. Except me. If I see you, don't take one city I need. I don't care if you have 5 times my population. I will fight you. There's of course many more economic strategies, but if I went over all of them, I will sit here for like 2 hours. So let's not do that. Okay? I know that was a lot to take in, so just relax for like 3 seconds to process everything. Okay, great. Now, let's finish everything off with some things to watch out for. Basically, tips and tricks. Number 1. With the recent update, formables have been given unique modifiers, so some of them have the chance to give extra income, like tax and whatnot. So pick one that suits your economic strategy. Actually, you can also just fix your weaknesses, so like extra tax income for the ideologies that reduce it, or you can choose to just reinforce your strengths. Your body, your choice. Did I just get political? The second thing you want to look out for is using a good old trick. This doesn't really apply to the big bastards that does a world conquest before 2035, but it's useful to everyone else. If you see someone killing a superpower, you can justify on that superpower. When the other players kill that superpower, you can just declare that superpower, and since its existence has been erased from planet Earth, you can just simply take all their money and resources without having to do anything. You basically get 75% of 25%, which is basically 90% of the original treasury of the superpower. A good deal, I would say. The third thing isn't really a thing to look out for, but more of a recommendation to avoid. I've heard people say to buy all resources possible and build as many factories as possible. Yeah, don't. Or it depends. You see, it costs 192,000 to buy 2 copper and 2 gold every 5 days, so the only way to make a profit upon building a factory is if it gives the full 250k bonus, but that still isn't really worth it. By the way, I'm not accounting for trading, since at this point it's not really important anymore since everyone else is already selling. If you want to break even for spending 25 million, you need to have them for at least more than 6 years, and this is if you're taking into account you earn 250k. So unless you want to play for more than 6 years and only have square cities, don't go for it. If you do, sure, go ahead, do for it. Lastly, the fourth tip is that you should buy my membership. It's a very good deal. For just $1 a month, you get cool badges, you get cool emojis, you get cool features, you get access to all my past live streams, and you get so much more. And it's only $1. And it also helps me make more better videos, so I can buy Premiere Pro, which I can't afford because I'm too poor. Or you can just watch my videos. Your choice.